Hey, and welcome guys. Thanks for joining me today. I'm taking a little bit of break from my Star Destroyer build. I'll have part 3 of that out soon. I'm still working on that. Haven't got a lot done. Just some busy cutting and windows on that. So anyway, I thought I'd just show you this other side project I've been working on. If you can tell, this is the Omega class destroyer from Babylon 5. Now I did a video of a 3D print I did not too long ago of a much smaller one. This one right here. And like how it look, but it's fairly small. It's only about 7 inches, give or take, about 7 inches long. So I wanted something a little bit bigger. Now this is actually a different file than that one. This file is from a person called, or the creator is called Canison, Canison. The title of it was Small Omega Class Destroyer. Now I have printed this out in a very similar size to this one, and I've decided I wanted to have one that was a little bit bigger, and I like this a little bit better. It's split up in this basically 4 parts. You do have to print 2 of these outer rotating parts, but basically there's just 4 files. So they mostly printed up pretty easy. The longest one was obviously the rear section, the drive section here. I had to stand it on its end to fit on my resin printer because its length, it alone is about 6 inches in length for just this part of it, and that took quite a while to print it out. But that actually, I got that my first print of that actually came out pretty good. You can see I've already primed this, and you can see where I'm doing some putty work, just some small imperfections, but for the most part I think the detail on it came out quite nicely. I didn't do any modifications to the file. It came, other than enlarging it, I enlarged the file 300%, so it's 300% bigger than what the file comes in. But I think even at 300%, it retained a lot of really nice detail, and pretty happy with that. The hardest thing I had printing out is I had a lot of flaws with these outer rotate sections. I was getting some if you want to look here, this is some of the flawed prints. Now one of them was just my mistake. This one right here, I accidentally cut the machine off, and obviously that ended the print. You can see some of these other ones, they pulled away from their supports, and you started getting some warping in there. One of them just fell off of the build plate and only printed about half of that. So it took me a few tries to get this printed out. I actually have an extra one now because I was printing 2 at a time on the plate. So I finally got those acceptable. The front of the ship and the center part of the rotating body, I completed in one print, and they came out pretty good. Just a little bit of cleanup. Again, a few flaws, a few areas where the support connections were at, which left little blemishes, which just kind of happened. It's my experience that that's kind of part of 3D printing. So basically, I have these parts. They all came with hollowed out, which was nice. Even these sections came hollowed out with drainage holes, so you don't use a whole lot of resin. I found this metal tube. It's aluminum tube. I had some other project. It's not a perfect fit, but it's pretty nice, and I'm going to use that to run it between the different sections to be able to support it and also keep it centered. There's not a whole lot of wiggle room in there, so I think that'll work good in supporting our sections here. Now, obviously, when we put this all together, go along in here, we're looking at about 12 inches length, so almost double the size of this other one. And I think, well, it's not gigantic, it's a big improvement over other ones, and I think it'll make a really nice display. So I'm going to be connecting all this and just gluing on. Using some super glue, I'm going to connect these outer rotating parts to the center. I think I'm just going to have the outer rotate parts kind of go out level. That way I can use this spot right here to drill a hole for a mounting rod to put it on our display base. And because with this one, I kind of put it at an angle, but that made it really hard to kind of attach to a display. So I think I'm just going to have it kind of going straight out, so it'll give me a nice place to connect our display mounting rod. So I'm going to have to super glue all this together, and then we'll put on a coat of primer. Alright, well I got it glued together. Can get it pretty well. I think this is a little bit canted right here. You can probably see that on video, but it's glued on there. I don't want to try to break that apart right now. It's not so bad that I'm going to try to break all that apart to get that a little bit straighter. So basically I ran the metal tube. I actually hot glued that tube in the front part, and then of course you saw me super glue these sections in here and super glue these outer rotating parts on there. I've used some brass tubing, drilled a hole through the center part down here. There's a little bit more weight coming back here, which I don't mind, because I don't mind if the ship has a little bit of an upward slant to it. This is just like a Polar Lights display base that I've used a little like spackling and paint and hot Mod Podge to give it kind of a textured moon surface on there. Probably do a little bit more work on that, but I want to go ahead and get a coat of primer, see if there's any flaws that I can kind of sand away. The primer will show that. And so far looking pretty good, and let's get on to priming and getting a base coat on it. Alright, here I have my base coat on. As you see, I did a primer, then I did a black primer to darken it all up, and then I used some of this Folk-Art gunmetal gray, kind of metallic gray, to put on the coat. And I like the metallic look, still very dark. And from here, really liking how this is looking. Really pretty nice size, a lot more the detail really comes out with just a bit of a larger size. So from here, I'm going to do some dry brushing and a little bit of detail painting. I'm going to do that off screen and to help bring out some of the details. A lot of nice details, so I want to kind of highlight these edges with some dry brushing on it. But there's a little bit of detail painting, so when I come back, we'll be all finished and we'll take a look at the final model. All right, well, here's my finished Omega class destroyer from Babylon 5. Really pleased with how this came out. After I finished putting on my paint, I did a lot of just very light dry brushing to bring out the very nice detail in this. Did a little bit of painting some red just to give it some a little bit of contrast on the front and back. Painted the engine nozzles silver, did a little dry pastels to do a little weathering on the engine nozzles. Really happy, very nice little model. I actually had the opportunity to speak with the creator of this file, person who goes by Kennison. He has a Facebook page. I'll try to link that into my video description. But anyway, I spoke to him. Now, this originally, like I said, I've scaled this up quite a bit. He said in its original design, it was meant to go with the Revell Babylon 5 space station and scaled to that manner. He does have a larger one, I forget how long, I think a meter long or something like that, maybe a lot bigger, which has a lot more parts. He says he's currently working on one that's going to be about this size, about a foot long, that will have more detail. He said the guns and stuff will be a little bit different and be a separate print. Anyway, but this one I thought was great. It was very easy to print. Like I said, there's only 4 files. You do have to print the outer rotating parts. You have to print 2 of those. And it has a hole to the center of all the parts, so you can run a shaft to give it support. And so very well done. I think it had some very nice detail, and I'm very happy. I like this size. Again, it's almost a foot long. It's not quite a foot long, and I think at that size, the detail in the design still comes through and looks really nice. So happy with how the coloring came out. Just missing some decals. Maybe I'll look at getting some decals for this to give it a name, and the I guess the Earth Alliance decal. So anyway, guys, that's a short video. I'll be back to next video. Will be back on part 3 of my Star Destroyers build. Still plugging away on that. Mostly just cutting in windows and trenching out areas. Nothing too very interesting on that. So hopefully in a week or so I'll have a new video, part 3 of my Star Destroyer build. But I've been working on this and just want to share with you. I know I've did a smaller one, but I think this one was pretty cool and thought I'd share it with you. So anyway, guys, until next time, everybody have a good one.